Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the session. The session is called Conversational Computing. We have the honor to host this workshop today. I'm working for Standortagentur Tirol. We are a service provider and initiator for business, and we bring together science institutions and help them growing. We help them to do innovations and cooperation, and we are located in the western part of Austria in Tyrol. I'm a cluster manager, and in our clusters, we coordinate the network of more than 400 companies, research institutes, education providers, and interest groups. And in the areas of economic and technological strengths, such as life science, renewable energies, mechatronics, creative industries, wellness, and of course, information technologies. And we give our members and partners a competitive advantage. My name is Franz Unterlugauer, and as a network manager, my focus is on know-how transfer and cross-sectoral innovation and development of cooperative projects. In accompanying corporates and SMEs, we started a new tool. It is called the Trend Laboratory. It's a trend scouting platform this January. And this exclusive tool we are using to initiate innovation, and it lists 17 megatrends. And number one of this megatrend is artificial intelligence. And now I come to the point of this session. A subsection of artificial intelligence is called chatbots. By filtering relevant articles and news, we observe a very dynamic technology with rapidly growing revenues. So we'll hear four distinctive talks about this topic. But before we start, I'll give a few organizational hints for you. The workshop, Conversational Computing, will take 90 minutes. The first slot gives an introduction to the topic, and after that overview, we hear three state-of-the-art so-called conversational solutions and get some insights from the founders, and they have a long-standing experience. Each provides insights and at first hand and practical applications. After each talk, we plan a 5 minutes Q&A session. As you can see, we can interact and ask questions where possible. And with support of my teammate Mario, we'll answer that questions. My teammate is not a chatbot. He's sitting in the same room as I am. He's working for Enterprise Europe Network, and he's in charge of the Q&A controls. So now, time's short, we'll get straight to the point and to my first guest, Jürgen Angele. He's head of a competence center management consultant at Adesso SE. He's working for more than 30 years, has a lot of experience in AI. He's the company Adesso SE is member of the CEDEX index. And Mr. Angele did his PhD in the field of AI and founded and headed several AI companies. He has published more than 150 publications, and his role is being an AI evangelist. In his role, he's always also involved in business development for AI. So let's start with the first talk, Conversational AI, the next big thing, question mark. Is it the next big thing?
Yes, good morning, everybody. So let's switch to my slides. So thank you for your introduction. I would say, yes, it's the next, one of the next big things, I would say. And we as Adesso, we have in the meantime a lot of experience with developing such things with such projects for chatbots. So that's my agenda. First, some words about introductory words. Then I will show you different views to this topic. The first is the analysis view, then a market view, and also with customer requirements, and finally a technology view to this conversational AI things. So first introduction. That's the advertising slide for Adesso. Adesso is a mid-sized, I would say mid-sized IT provider. We have been founded in 1997, around 500 million revenues. Alone, I'm located in a vertical inside Adesso. It's a banking vertical, and we have 200 million turnover in this financial sector. Some awards, especially that's nice, being the best workplace in Germany for some years already, and we are around, in the meantime, 5,500 people right now. We are located in, well, the headquarters is in Germany, in Dortmund, but we have around 32 offices all around Europe, not only in the DACH region, but also in Spain, Bulgaria. In the meantime, also Hungary and the Netherlands. In Turkey, we are since a longer time also. So conversational AI is not a new thing. In fact, it's really old. 1966, Weizenbaum created the ELIZA, which has been well known in AI. And since that, we had some remarkable steps towards our situation today. Everybody of you probably know Google Home Assistant, Alexa, Siri, all these things which work really nicely today. So some numbers. A lot of people are using messengers like WhatsApp and so on. 1.4 billion people are using that. Chatbots increased from 19 to 20, from 70% to 48%, the use of those chatbots. And it seems to be very obvious communication medium, especially for younger people. So the use of chatbots has increased by 92%. We see a lot of questions being processed, and 65% of the millennials and Gen X prefer messaging to phone calls. When I look at my children, I know that they very much prefer to chat instead of a phone call. So let's have a look, brief look to analysis. So Gartner has said that in 21, 50% of the enterprises will spend more in developing bots and chatbots and voice bots compared to mobile app development. I think that's a remarkable statement when we all know how important mobile applications are. We see how important this conversational AI will be and will increase in future. And when we look at the well-known hype cycle of Gartner, we see chatbots here in the middle. So we already have left the peak, and we also have left the peak with some other AI technologies. Remarkable is that knowledge graphs currently at the top of this peak. We will see knowledge graphs later in my talk, but also in other talks. And that those technologies have left the peak is a good sign, at least if they survive this downgrade, because then things become realistic and are applied in real use cases, I'd say. So let's have a look at the market and also at customer requirements. So when I was confronted with the first chatbot project, which is around 3-4 years ago at Adesso, we really saw huge projects, very expensive projects, and some of them really have failed. I saw some of them in large banks, and they have failed. And as I mentioned, we have left in the meantime the peak of the hype. But in the meantime, also the use cases are clearly arguable. They are there. The benefits are there. Return of invests are clearly quantifiable. And in the meantime, we also have the technology. We have platforms and tools which are really nice to develop such chatbots and voice bots. So that's currently the market situation. And when we look at the benefits, especially for service parts of companies, for service organizations, that's where we develop our chatbot projects. Then it reduces sometimes 20% of the service calls. You have 24/7 availability. You have the same quality in every call, reduced call times. Employees can, service employees can focus on interesting questions and not the standard questions. Conversations can be analyzed afterwards. Customer satisfaction increases, as well as the satisfaction of the service employees because of interesting questions and not only standard questions. And clearly, as I mentioned, it's a modern way of communication, and it's an obvious way for younger people to communicate in that way. So let's have a look at the customer requirements for such chatbots and voice bots. So there's no prioritization of these things. For one of the customers, one of the topics is more important than the other, but this is an unprioritized list. So good coverage of the use case by questions and answers. Integration of customer data is important for generating the right answers. Not only a FAQ chatbot, but integrating the data and the information which is available. Safety of personal data, so GDPR questions are very often important, especially in the banking sector or insurance sector. Security in general for all the data, and for attacks also to such systems. Clearly, price plays always a role. Customer must have the opportunity to adapt the chatbot by himself. Chatbot must be scalable, extensible. Very good maintenance must be provided. So service level agreements play a role, because the chatbot plays an important role in such service organizations. Multiple channels, so phone, widget, the other channels, email, for instance, are important. And clearly, such a system should be able to support also live chat. So what about the technology which is currently available? So that's what we want to have, certainly. Real intelligent assistant. I can ask everything, even something like, what is the theory of relativity? And I expect that such an assistant creates nice and good answers for all my questions. Unfortunately, this is currently not real the case. So still, we have a lot to do
to develop such chatbots. So we have to train the questions for every question intent. We have to give a lot of examples. We have to annotate the examples. So special parts of the examples have to be annotated. These parts are called entities. And there are, for every chatbot, really hundreds of such examples are needed. At the bottom, you see some examples for these examples. What are the places of interest, for instance, in Rome, when you look at touristic chatbots? And I have to tell, well, Rome is a city, and so on, right? So already that is some work to do. Then we have guided dialogues. So we have dialogue sequences, dialogue trees. Here in the bottom, you see some examples, or one example, which comes from the financial sector. So a chatbot asks something, the user answers, the chatbot asks the next question in the same context. And we have to design these dialogue sequences explicitly. And finally, we have to give the answers to all those questions and intermediate questions. So this brings me to another viewpoint of such chatbots. I think chatbots should be data-driven. So the data, the information should be in the core. And those information requires also integrating existing data sources from our customers, for instance, banking backend systems. Banks have a lot of information available which are might be accessible by such a chatbot. And then the other hand side, we have to automatically, or we can automatically generate at least parts of the answers, parts of the dialogue trees, when we exploit those data and when we exploit the structure of those data, which are in the center of this view. And finally, I think this chatbot things are only one access channel to enterprise knowledge and should be one of those opportunities to do knowledge management in these companies, because these data can not only be used by chatbots, but can also be used to create portals and to support different processes inside such companies. So I would say this is a different view in contrast to chatbot, which provides only FAQ like answers. So, and I would say, as I mentioned in my previous slides, it's still a lot to do to develop such chatbots. I think, therefore, there's still some way to go to create even more intelligent chatbots, to reduce the effort to create chatbots. And I also see there is a lot of technology on the way to support, especially that way we will go with this technology. So thank you very much for your attention. And we have time for some questions, I would say.
Mr. Angele, thank you very much for your introduction. As the slides showed, there are a few topics where you probably could talk for hours about the technical background of it. What I was interested in our talks when we discussed your presentation, what is the advantage of an integrator developing a chatbot as compared to a generic chatbot? Because Adesso I see is doing integration projects. So what is the advantage of your approach?
Well, I think it's complementary. It's not an advantage or disadvantage. It's complementary to what these generic chatbot platform providers provide currently. At least that ESO is not a software company. We are not developing software products, but we have a lot of experience in the processes of our customers. We know exactly the data they have. We know exactly the processes. And on the other hand, these platform providers and tool providers provide us the relevant software tools to build up these chatbots. And I think this combination is really important. On the other hand, I think these generic platform providers cannot have a detailed view of the customer process for every different vertical. I think that's currently not possible. And I think, therefore, these approaches are complementary. And we have partners which provide us the tools, and we develop the projects together in most cases with those partners.
Okay. You showed the Gartner hype cycle. Where do you expect the largest technological progress? Maybe one short answer.
Yes, we are also doing a lot of work in linguistic analysis of text, and we see a lot of progress there. Look at the transformer technology of neural nets, where you can do a real good linguistic analysis in the meantime of text. And a lot of information resides still in text. So combining those technologies, creating answers out of pure text, I think I expect a lot of progress in that field in the next future.
Mr. Angele, thank you very much for your introduction. We'll go to the next one. Every morning I say to my Alexa, next, when I play the playlist. Our next talk is done by Bart Lehane. He's the Chief Product Officer of EdgeTier. It's an international company. They're based in Dublin, Ireland, and EdgeTier make contact centers more efficient and more data-led. EdgeTier's AI technology knows when it's best to respond directly to the customer, when to assist an agent, and when to alert management about unusual events or changes in customer behavior. So I'm very curious to hear the talk from Bart Lehane, maintaining the human touch with assisted AI and AI-driven insights. Bart, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Franz. That's a lovely introduction to get on a cold Dublin Tuesday morning. So yes, as Franz said, we at EdgeTier, we try to think about AI holistically from a contact center point of view. And our view is very much that AI isn't just there to be used for one or two point solutions. AI can be used to elevate the performance of pretty much everybody who works in any customer-facing role. So today I'm going to talk about three main areas that we focus on in EdgeTier. The first area, which is a lot of overlap in what Jürgen just spoke about, is around automatically assisting customers. So automatically responding over a bot or over email to a customer. But I'm actually going to focus only probably a little bit about that. I'm going to spend most of my time talking about how AI can also be used for other purposes. In many cases, very similar types of AI to assist agents who are handling queries. So as Jürgen mentioned, a good outcome is about 20% of contacts being automated through a bot. So Agent Assist comes in for that other 80% of queries that end up in front of people. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about how AI and natural language processing can be used to assist the people running contact centers, to inform them about what's going on, both to improve customer experience, but also to alert them maybe of things that could be automated or things that could be done. So firstly, to talk about how AI can be used to assist customers, I won't repeat everything that Jürgen just said about chatbots and email bots. One point that I really want to be clear on in terms of figuring out the optimal strategy for bots, and one mistake that we see people make over and over again, is not to focus on the actual customer benefit. So often people get a little bit carried away with the business case of bots, and they think, okay, let's automate as much as possible. Typically, the best approach is to focus on, well, what do customers actually want to be automated? What contacts that come in from customers are better served from a customer point of view by automating them, as opposed to putting them in front of people? And we would see kind of people tending to put all their eggs in the kind of bot basket and try to push a lot of contacts through bots, which either leads to poor customer experience or just anyway leads to customers bypassing the bot and going and escalating to a human. As Jürgen said, again, I won't repeat what Jürgen said. Bots have their strengths and they have their weaknesses. In their strengths, they're always on, they're consistent, they're very good at what they do. But they're not a lot of things as well. They're not flexible. I mean, Jürgen pointed out to having to program and code each interaction, each flow in a bot. So they're nowhere near as flexible as a person. They can't, they're not human, right? So they can't do those higher level emotional human things that we do automatically. Like, they're not funny, or at least, you can program some humor into them, but, programmed humor typically isn't that funny. They can't be sympathetic. They can't be empathetic. They can't do a lot of the things that we as humans do innately. So when you're thinking about what queries and what customer conversations you want to push into a bot, don't pick the ones that may require some sort of sympathy or empathy or some sort of human feature. So like I said, I'm not going to focus too much on purely on the kind of bot technology, because I think Jürgen covered it very well, and I know Andreas and Alex have really interesting talks that focus on that bit coming up. At EdgeTier, we focus on building bots for both chat and email, so we can build autoresponders in both of those technologies. But really what I wanted to focus on a little bit more are other areas where you can use very similar conversational AI technology within the contact center. And one area I'm going to focus on quite a bit is on assisting agents, right? So as Jürgen said, 80% of contacts that come to your contact center are probably going to end up in front of an agent. So if you want to assist an agent, well, the first thing to look at is, what do customer service agents actually do? This is a timing that we did of a customer service agent handling a query, where we stood beside the agent with a stopwatch and monitored everything that they did. And you can see when the agent was handling this customer service query, they went through the normal steps. They read the query, they researched the customer, began responding, and so on. And a lot of the agent's time was spent doing tasks that they didn't really need to do. So looking up information, drafting responses, administrative tasks. The agent spent a lot of time doing those things. And actually, the only pieces that the agent from a human point of view had to do were interpreting the actual query from the customer and understanding what the customer, the customer's emotional state, and customizing the response. And in this example, it was a complaint that came in, and the agent did a really good job in massaging the message that went back to the customer to, understand the customer's emotive state and customize the query going back. But the rest of this stuff is just stuff that an agent has to do to fulfill the task, to answer the chat, to respond to the email, and so on. So from an AI and automation point of view, the aim is to remove all of this stuff, remove all the copying and pasting, remove all the information lookup, remove all the drafting responses, and allow the agent to spend more time on the human elements, the stuff that matters, understanding the customer and customizing the response. So at EdgeTier, that's what we do, and a lot of the same underlying AI and automation technology that you're using for chatbots can be turned to use in this way. So in AI, that's what we do. We look to remove all of those unnecessary tasks that agents perform. So as a query comes in, our AI engine will understand it, similar to what you would do for a chatbot. But if that query ends up in front of an agent, we will then do as many tasks on behalf of the agent as possible. So we'll look up information, we'll draft responses, we'll do all of the admin tasks for the agent. I don't have too much time for a full demo, but just to briefly show you kind of what that looks like. Firstly, over email, a query will come in here on the left-hand side. our system will understand and analyze the query and pull up relevant information. So this is a billing query, so it pulls up all the relevant payment information for that customer, and then it also can draft responses with very detailed information within the response. Obviously, it's agent assist, so the agent can still modify it and so on. But the aim is that an agent is 80% of the way there before they even begin. Similarly for chat, and you'll see some of this looks very similar to a chatbot, except it's done in the way of assisting agents. So the technology is consistently scanning all of the messages that are going through to an actual agent. And in this case, a person is looking to amend a booking. And then in the background, the system will pull information up on behalf of the agent that's relevant, but it will also suggest responses. So in this case, the system figures out that the person has purchased a booking that cannot be changed. So it will send a message to the agent to say, okay, this is the response. So preventing the agent from having to go and look up all that information, preventing the agent from having to spend all that time researching that particular customer. I don't have time for a full, complete demo here, but obviously happy to show it to other people afterwards if needs be. And the interesting thing is, when you start to think about it this way, is that the impacts can be typically bigger than chatbots. And we would always say it's a combined strategy. So you want some of your queries to be handled automatically, and you want some of your queries to be handled in an agent assist mode. We would tend to see pretty large gains in efficiency when you use this technology. So, in this client, the chat performance increased by 25%. Their chats performance increased by over 50%. So the handling times were effectively halved. So huge reductions in handling time on the kind of 80% of emails and chats that don't make it or can't be automated. And similar results we see elsewhere, where we're giving kind of quite big handling time reductions across email and chat, but also better customer satisfaction scores, because the responses that are going out to customers are kind of pre-made, and they're kind of guiding an agent through responding. So that's agent assist. And again, I do think it's important to have a combined strategy where you're looking at all of the contacts that you're getting and deciding, okay, which ones do we want to automate completely with a bot? Which ones do we want to end up in front of an agent? And by using the technology to cover both angles, you're given a lot more freedom to prioritize one or the other, because you're getting big performance gains no matter what you do. So you can start to think about things from a customer perspective. One other area I'm going to touch on just briefly is around how again, AI, NLP technology can be used to assist the people running contact centers and the managers of contact centers. And typically in any contact center, there are a bunch of people who are there trying to figure out how to improve customer experience, how to automate more processes, and how to automate more customer queries. And most modern customer service teams are built on using data. So, getting the data and using it to solve those kind of problems. And luckily, in most modern contact centers, we're actually swimming in data. So there is a ton of data flowing through each and every contact center, from customer queries, CRM information, payment information, survey results, social data, and so on. There's a huge amount of data going through customer service teams. But what we find quite a lot is that the people who are tasked with improving customer experience and understanding customer issues often don't know where to start. There's just too much data flowing through, so they really struggle to go into the details and find what are causing customer issues. So at Edge, we've built technology to try and solve that problem. We've built a system called Watchtower, which monitors all of the activities within your contact center, from metrics, such as queue sizes, handling times, customer satisfaction scores, right down into the actual language and words that people are using. So our technology monitors the actual chats, monitors the emails, and looks for subtle changes in words that people are using. And it really turns the monitoring approach on its head. Rather than having managers go in and investigate issues, it tells you about issues before you really know that they exist. So to give one or two examples, here's an example from a US company that we work with. They had pushed an update to their system, and they have a referral program within their product, and the referral link stopped working for some customers. Right, so in the background, the AI technology is monitoring all of the chats and emails coming in and out of their contact center. And it noticed a subtle change in language that people were using. So more people were talking about referral links not working than normally talk about these things. So it created an alert to say, over the past few hours, we've seen a 15% increase in people having issues with your referral program. The links are no longer working for them. You need to go and sort out this problem. So in this way, the manager is now empowered to actually go and find the source of that problem and go and resolve it. In another example, this is a Spanish company that we work with, where they saw a large spike in contacts coming in. So, the volume of contacts went in, grew from kind of 5 chats a minute that they normally expect up to 81 chats a minute. So our technology, spotted that trend and alerted them, but it also looked into the actual chat contents and clustered the contact reasons together to figure out, well, what's driving this actual change? So normally when there's a spike in contacts in any contact center, there's kind of widespread panic and nobody knows what's going on, and you have to ask agents and try and figure it out. In this case, they have very quickly and very clearly a clear understanding of what's actually driving those contacts. So they could see that there was, again, in this case, it was driven by an error in their app, where people were getting deferred delivery time messages rather than actual delivery times. So again, it turns that monitoring on its head to use kind of AI and NLP to tell people what's going on rather than having them investigate it. So I think I'm close to being out of time. So just in terms of final thoughts, one thing that I think is very important is to think holistically about how AI can be used throughout your organization. And conversational AI and NLP extend much more beyond bots. And often you can use some very similar types of technology to improve not just the performance of bots, but also to improve the performance of your entire team. So Agent Assist really has the capability to transform your team and to improve the quality quite substantially. And then real-time monitoring and alerting allows you to deliver much more data-driven customer care. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll pause it there.
Here you have the contact details from Mr. Lehane. Thank you very much. There were some very impressive numbers. When I'm thinking of it, there is in the back end, you need a lot of AI to train this tool. How long does it take to train AI so that it understands customers and their questions?
It does vary from customer to customer. Typically, the actual training of the AI is pretty quick. So we've kind of adopted our AI technology quite a lot over the last number of years to require the fewest number of samples and the fewest number of training. What we tend to find is that actually the collaborative piece before it is usually the bit that takes the most time to understand a bit about the company's, their processes and what they do and where AI is most useful. We do have our general approach is that we have in-house technology that analyzes historic chats, for example, and will suggest the topics that are most suitable for automation based on the complexity of them and so on. But it's always a collaborative process because you like I said, you don't want to automate processes where you want to end up in front of a person. So usually it's a bit of a collaborative process.
And how can you ensure that these AI models stay up to date? What is necessary in the background?
So it's kind of a dual strategy. So one is monitoring the output and updating the models, right? So you do need to look at the output that you're getting. So what are your deflection rates? Are people actually, when they're using a bot, do they actually finish the conversation in the bot, or do they often need to escalate? And then on the agent assist side, we monitor how often the agent actually accepts the suggestion. So if our AI is wrong, it's going to make a bad suggestion to an agent. So we track every click that the agent does, so that we can then feed that back in to improve the overall model. So it's very much a continuous process. Okay,
Mr. Lehane, thank you very much. Was good to have you here. Thanks for the demo of the tool. Our next talk is done by Alexander Bala, I know him for years already. He's a CEO and co-founder of Onlim, a company based in Innsbruck and Vienna. And Alexander is responsible for business development and investor relations at the high-tech company. And he's actually been a successful serial entrepreneur in the software as a service sector for many years now. He graduated in electrical engineering from the University of Technology in Vienna. And Onlim, his company, is one of the leading conversational AI providers in the German-speaking countries, so in the DACH, German, Austria, Switzerland region. And with Onlim, they have implemented more than 100 enterprise chatbot solutions for major customers in various industries. Alex, please, the stage is yours. Knowledge-driven conversational AI.
Need to unmute. So thank you, Franz, for the nice introduction. So you said already everything. So it was a quite nice introduction of our company as well. And I will talk about automating customer communication today. And I will go a little bit more into the details and also show you hands-on what does it mean, knowledge-driven AI. We have heard already from Jürgen and also Bart. So the data is quite important. And when we also from Onlim started to go into this business, so we have been quite early, developed our platform for chatbots, already starting 2015 when the first chatbots came up and the hype started. But what we recognized quite fast, that chatbots that don't have good data don't scale, and therefore we also started to look at what does it mean to get good knowledge actually for your chatbots and for your data, because at the end of the day what you want to reach here is automating the customer communication, and you want to also hyper automate processes and everything that is behind it. So what's a major asset now in this digital age? And I think everybody knows that at the moment we are sitting in our home offices, everything is going online. So having good data, it's quite important for every organization, for every company and enterprise. But the problem that you still see here, that the data are in silos, the data are not really interlinked, enriched, machine readable, or also easy to access. And the difference, of course, makes it in the first step when you open your data silos. And when you open this, it's, of course, what can you do? You can do better decisions. You can better automate your processes, either for increased sales, for information internally, externally, and also, of course, the cost reduction on the same in the same way. But there is one step more actually that you need to do, and this is exactly also what I want to show here today. So it's a little bit also this hybrid AI stuff. So the next level is you don't need also to interlink your data, and interlinking data means you have questions that are maybe you're first in a customer journey. People actually want to get information about your product. Later on, they want to buy the product. So you have maybe a combination between information from product, marketing, sales. And there are a lot of examples that you can get here. But the most important part, and this is also what I want to emphasize here in the talk today, is how to access the data. We have been used to access our data and information in a complex way. So we have been used to access the data through Google searches. So we are quite good in keyword-based search, but also in using complex interfacing. We are good in managing Excel sheets. But the most natural way how to access your data is actually in natural language. So I have a question, I ask something, and I want to get back the answer that is relevant for me. And there are, of course, many channels, and we talked today already about the at the moment most prominent channel, which is the chatbot, where you can simply ask in a text-based or also already in a voice-text interface questions, and you can run a dialogue. But of course, there are more channels, and I think we will also see it in the last talk that voice is important as well. And but the most important part here is the two things. On the one hand, you want to get actually knowledge out of your data that is machine readable. And the second part is, of course, that you can get an easy access to this knowledge. And this is actually asking questions in text and voice and access it in natural language. So I come now to the point. Also, I want to use the term hybrid AI. So we use the technology combining the knowledge graph, which is actually the knowledge out of the data, and the conversational AI part quite for a couple of years. And hybrid AI was a term also that was emphasized in a couple of international articles beginning of this year. And it means actually we are using two types of artificial intelligence. On the one hand, we are using the symbolic part of the artificial intelligence, which is the knowledge graph. That means what we are doing is we are modeling your data, that you can build a knowledge graph. Knowledge graph, people who don't know, so this is it's a kind of a graph-based database. So that means you have nodes, and then you connect these nodes with a clear semantics. And what we are doing is that we say, okay, if you want to run a dialogue, you need anyway the knowledge, otherwise you won't get an answer. And therefore, we are teaching out of the knowledge that we have our conversational AI to understand the meaning of the questions that somebody is asking or the dialogue that is somebody running. And the conversational AI part, this is the non-symbolic AI, because there we're using deep learning, machine learning, actually, and therefore it's called also hybrid AI, where we are combining two approaches. And the result is rather straightforward, because what you can do here is building dynamically an unlimited number of dialogues in natural language. And this is exactly what we want to do, because if you have a lot of products, you don't want to maybe provide training data related to all your product properties, but you want to actually get answers for all these properties and products. And therefore, you need dynamically build the training data and run actually configure the system upon the knowledge. So how does it look like? This is also the platform that we have built. On the one hand, knowledge graph, so where we integrate all the data. And I will also show you hands-on how the things are looking like, how it's working. Then, of course, the conversational part, where you manage all your conversations, also analytics, of course, and that you get the insights here. And quite important, also what we see here, at the end of the day, we will have different channels where we want to access the knowledge. And that means a channel can be a chatbot, it can be a search widget, maybe that is on your website, or maybe you just want to get access to your data via an API because you want to use this knowledge also in apps or other applications. And also, of course, phone system, voice assistants from different providers are at the end of the day quite important. And a multi-channel platform, also as we are doing, what you can get out here is, of course, that you just provide your data once, and that you can access the different channels in the same way, so that the system is bridging the configuration that the different systems like Alexa, Google Assistant is using or needing for you, so that you don't have extra work on it. So what we do, and this is what I explained already, so the chatbots are trained out of the knowledge. So how does it work here? You see we have here the platform. So when somebody is asking somebody something, in that sense, it's somebody's looking for a restaurant with a charging station in Watten. So we actually recognized, okay, he's looking for a restaurant, electric charging station for the car, and Watten is the location. So we extract this data. And why we can extract this data? Because we did the learning before. So in that sense, we know and can interpret the answer. And then we look into the knowledge graph and see, okay, what is the answer for it? and then we generate a natural language answer depending on the channel. And that's a case, it was a chatbot channel. So you get a mix out of cards where you get a proper presentation of your answer here in this channel. And if it's a voice channel, you will, of course, get just a voice answer related to the same question here. So another use case that I want to show you, and also I think it's a customer of ours also here. It's a typical customer service chatbot here. What we are doing here is we are reducing the response time, have a great availability, and of course, you can imagine a shop like IKEA has always more or less a lot of questions that are quite similar. And also we are able actually to provide a proper answer here and also integrate it with the system and get a great automation here. And now I will jump into a presentation. So I show you a little bit on the platform. So this is a use case that we did for Tyrol, where we have an office. Also our company is based, also host is coming here. And what you see here in this use case is actually how you can access, get actually combining data between restaurants and also electric service station, where we also showcase that you can actually use in a quite natural way those two data sources. So I stop my presentation and I switch now to the browser. So hope everything is working. So you should see my browser now. So this is actually our backend system. You see how you can manage the different items for managing the platform. There are, of course, also more, but today I want to focus here. So how does this hybrid AI approach work? So the first point is actually you need to access the data sources. So in that sense, we have 3 data sources. With our system, it's right easy to access. What we do is actually to say, okay, what are actions that you can perform on the data sources? So you can, in that sense, we integrated the electricity charging station as a service because we get real life data there. And we integrated also here a couple of restaurants here. So you can also see then the data in our knowledge templates and use this, and actually you get then the configurations. So what we provide out of the data, these are the intents, and then in the intents you see of course how the system is working. You see okay how you can configure it. You see also training data that are needed, and get other options here. You can also get analytics training and everything like that, and how the things are working then. So here, this is the chat widget actually that we developed. It's quite easily to integrate this widget in the website, and then you can run within this widget either a combination that you still use in the chatbot through buttons or in really natural language. And here, when I type here this phrase, you see you get the information. You also what we did, and this therefore this knowledge driven is quite important because we combined 2 data sources that actually are not really combined, and then you have the chance here and says, okay, I want to get what is the nearest charging station. I can get details of the charging station if it's available, and all the data that actually you need for this. So this is a simple way how you can build your knowledge, and what we have done is actually also through the App Store that you can integrate quite a knowledge. We're using standardized domain models, and so it's quite fast up and running, building your conversational AI, but also your knowledge management. So thanks a lot. I will switch back to my last slide, or I think the contact slide also Franz has. And thanks for the presentation today, and looking forward to questions.
Alexander, thank you very much for your presentation and the live demo. There is always a risk if you use something like this. But as I know the prototype and we tested it also together, I'm proud that we could start this project with you, and that the tourism industry in Tyrol and every and guests have the opportunity to use this chatbot to get opening hours of some restaurants and possibilities where to charge electrical vehicles in Tyrol. Thanks a lot for that. There is a question from my human chatbot, Mario. He'll read the question to you.
Okay.
So we do have a question in the chat, which is from Manuela, and she asks, "Congrats for this clear and conscious presentation. Is the on-limb solution something that SMEs in hospitals or in the industry would use?"
Yes, of course. So we are an enterprise platform, but available for all types of enterprises that want to build actually their knowledge and conversational AI solutions. In that sense, yes, that's correct. And we are also vertical agnostic. We have also already chatbots in the health industry. In that sense, you can also use it, of course, in a hospital. So you can really build up any use case that you like. And happy to have a chat also later on with Manuela if she is more interested.
Thank you very much. I have another question. What were the main learnings you took out of this project you presented? What would you say is the main either gain or pain point you learned in this project with the knowledge graph in Tyrol?
Yeah, I think what we also learned, and in this project and also other project, getting the data on board is actually quite. It's a pre-requirement that you can run a good conversation, but it also takes some time, and also therefore, what we have actually done is also with the App Store, for example, to simplify this process. So, and this is also what we are working on in future. So we want to actually get quite fast quality data in the knowledge graph, so that at the end of the day, you can actually run a lot of conversations, and this is the goal. And also we are working here actually to simplify this process, but nevertheless have a really great quality knowledge graph in the end of the day. We are also working actually to get out of text knowledge in here. And this is actually how we are planning to scale here.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. For the audience, if you have further questions, just post it into the chat. And I'd like to refer to the meetings which are organized by the B2Match platform. You can use it today in the afternoon, and there are 2 more slots tomorrow. All of the reference of our speakers are available in the B2Match platform, and also the contact details. So if you have questions which cannot be, or which you do not want to ask today, just do not hesitate and ask our experts after the event. We have one more question from the audience.
Yes, there's another question in the chat for Alex from Simona. Simona is asking, how much time maximum should such a project take if done by just one single professional?
So this depends, of course, always on the use case, but we are quite fast already. So when you have a clear idea about your use cases, if you're prepared what you want to do here, we are normally also, when only one single person on the other side from our customers is working on it, we are normally up and running 4 weeks. sometimes also faster. And if you say, okay, I can work all the time on it, it maybe takes a little bit longer, but it's a reasonable time already and works quite well. So in that sense, you don't have to be worried about it when you start such a project that you actually can provide the resources here. So, and I think it's a good average when you start with some smaller use cases, and then anyway you can extend it all the time. And this is also what we recommend for our customers. This is also, for example, what Gartner says. On the one hand, you have to look into the future, that you know, okay, what can I do maybe in 3 years from now? But we also recommend that you say, okay, these are the most important use cases for the moment, and that you get up and running quite fast, because it's also important that you start early with the projects, you take the learning, you get data, and then you see, of course, what you can do at the end of the day and what are the benefits for you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. There is also an additional question also regarding the first one. She is asking, what about if done by a team of 3? And also Manuela asked, does this work with more languages? So maybe you can also answer these 2 questions.
Yes, of course. When you have more people on your side, it's faster. If you don't have any bottlenecks in getting the data, so that's clear. And languages, via language, we think we are supporting a lot of languages. We are also up and running already with chatbots in Italian, French, German, of course, Netherlands, Polish. So language is not a blocker, because our platform is using semantics, and in that sense, it's independent from the language that you're using.
Okay. So we'll go to the next slot. Thank you, Alex, for your talk.
Thank you.
And yeah, if there are any questions, we might have some time at the end, or just use the chat. We'll take care of the questions on which channel ever they come in. Andreas Rath, I think many people know him. He's an AI expert and creative thinker, very well known. And at the same time, he's a sharp problem solver and execution specialist. He worked for 5 years in AI intelligent research and 6 years in digitizing international companies all around the world. As a top management consultant for McKinsey & Company, prior funding to Ondevo in Vienna. So the company Ondevo is the main ship with the vision to build the operating system for machine-to-human voice communication. That citation is from Andreas Rath, and he'll talk about teaching machines to automate thousands of parallel inbound and outbound phone calls in call centers. Andreas, it's your turn.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the great introduction. I'd like to talk with you about teaching machines to automate inbound and outbound phone calls in call centers, and why does it matter actually. If you may allow me to introduce you a bit about Ondevo. So Ondevo has the focus to build the operating system for human-machine communication. We currently focus on automating phone calls, inbound and outbound. However, some of our customers are also powering, in the simplest form, chatbots, in the most advanced forms, voice assistants, phone call automation systems, industry robots, or even humanoid robots with our system. Because the core, and this is what Ondevo is a deep tech AI product company, which specializes in writing deep learning and machine learning algorithms for speech to text. So converting audio into text from human voice, natural language understanding, and natural language processing for automating conversations, and also synthesizing voices for text to speech. We originated in 2017 and founded our company in Vienna. We started with being a chatbot product. However, we found out very fast that the market and human beings like to chat, and chat in terms of having a good conversation with a machine with your voice, because voice is the most natural interface we are taught when we were little. When we talk to people, it's about talking. So even before we write, we talk. So the reach with an automation system that understands human voice and that can respond in human voice back is very much appreciated. And this is also what we see in the industry as a trend. So the voice market is quite growing at the moment. So why phone call automation? So what are the benefits actually? The benefits are across the board from call centers, and also benefits for agents. I mean, the first thing it comes to mind is that you would like to reduce the costs. Call centers are a cost center. Of course, customer experience is important, but costs, let's get them down. However, there are also other benefits which might get very in handy. It's about the problem that employees handle a lot of repetitive tasks, high volume, and actually they don't like it that much. They feel bored, they feel that it's always the same, so they leave the company. Call center jobs have the highest churn rate, employees leave, across several industries. So assisting employees to be happy so that the trained ones and the good ones can stay is also a major benefit of phone call automation. The third thing is sometimes agents, especially newly ones, have a low quality in terms of how they serve customers. Sometimes they do not know. A human being doesn't know everything, especially when you start your new job. So it's also about increasing customer experience and satisfaction by having an assistive technology, turning the call, and also automating parts of it so that the agent, as we heard in one of our previous talks, can really focus on the human side of the conversation to consult, to support, and to solve the problem, rather than doing repetitive tasks which can easily be automated. So how to realize the benefits? Actually, AI agents are software, so it's very easy. No matter if you call in, if a call comes inbound, or if you call outside to a customer, supplier, or employee, you just add agents, and you can add agents, AI agent, as much as you like. Of course, you will not need some of your employees. However, the role of the existing employees will get a major upgrade, because they are the ones who will teach the machines to automate these phone calls, so that they get another role of how they're doing things, and also creating new types of jobs, which is very important. So actually, the AI helps employees to make better customer service. There are 4 major use cases we see in phone call automation, which is one. The AI assists employees with their real-time tasks. So the AI listens into the phone call, automates workflows, fills in forms, writes reports, provides answers, as we have seen before. The AI can also pick up the phone call first, understands what the call is about, and then hands over to a human being for actually handling the call. You can imagine gathering all this information like customer number, social security number, or diagnosis if you book a medical appointment. That can be all done by an AI agent, and then the real consultancy can happen then over the phone with a human being. The third thing is, of course, the AI can converse fully automatically by handling repetitive tasks, password reset and IT support as an example, or even calling outside for lead generation to find the transport in the logistics area, for example, to transport from A to B, like lead generation. Or the AI can just call outside and make a market survey, customer satisfaction surveys, or even following up on some kind of support requests you might have. So all these kind of use cases we see across all the industries. And you can imagine that there are many, many more. The key question is it relevant for my call center? And the answer is yes, if you have standardized calls, if you have a high call volume, if you have a certain type of call demand fluctuation, so you have overbookings or overutilization, underutilization of your call center agents, so you have spikes or lows. So this can be used for balancing it out. You need to hit various SLAs, which means you have a contract with your call center customer that says you need to pick up the phone within 10 seconds or within a minute, and you need to handle the ticket within a certain period of time. Otherwise, you need to pay fines. So hitting these SLAs is fully set when you automate these calls. And from a volume perspective, you should have more than 5 agents, because if you have less than 5 agents, it's mostly the case that they handle so diverse tasks that automation solution is not required. But if you have more than 5 agents, it's probably you have a lot of standardized calls that can be fully automated so that you and your agents get the benefit. So how does it work? AI phone call automation is basically an end-to-end chain, in which you see here. First, you need the integration telephone system. That's very obvious. So if a customer calls, you need to be able to pick up the phone. That's very easy to do because there is a protocol called SIP, and you can hook it up to basically all the phone call systems. It's more difficult to handle parallel phone calls. However, this can be done with some kind of smart algorithms. Second, the understanding what the customer says on the phone in terms of understanding the audio from human voice and to transcribe it. That's really tricky because phone call conversations are totally different. They happen in a noisy area. They're maybe on a mobile. There's some honking in the background. People also speak sometimes dialects. So this is a very tricky part. The third thing is the middle, the conversation automation. And I have a slide on that. It's very tricky because it's different from how we perceive and how humans handle chatbots. And I will show a slide later on to tell you the differences and the difficulties there. So it's basically handling the conversation. The fourth thing is how the AI responds. In text, in chat, it's the same. If AI says this or says this, you can wordsmith a bit. However, when AI responds via voice, there is a lot of things going on regarding branding. So how the voice sounds should be definitely different from a sporting company, which is super exciting voice, or a bank or a medical institution where you book your appointment for your health problems. So this is the end-to-end chain, and this needs to be very, very fast so that the AI can respond to a human on the phone in less than a second. This is what we found out. We made a lot of mistakes at OnTheGo when we started out as a chatbot company and were navigating our way to phone call automation. We found out that it's not possible to hook up different systems, microservices, which are available in the cloud together in one chain because of two things. One is that the speed was not there. So hooking up the systems, even though they are very fast individually, cannot respond end-to-end in less than a second, which the human wants to have. The second one is accuracy. Accuracy is something which the single services are really good at. However, if you combine end-to-end accuracy, they don't deliver a system which is sufficient enough for handling a phone call. Because if speech to text fails to recognize one or two words or recognize it differently, all the later will be not well enough for a good customer experience. Don't make any mistakes. A conversation on the phone is very much different to a chatbot conversation and to a voice assistant conversation. People may ask deviating questions, do not understand acoustically, get interrupted, need to check something back before they answer you, because a phone conversation is synchronous. A chat conversation is asynchronous. Sometimes people also forget, and it's really surprising how fast they forget what they said on the phone. And I would like to play you an example of a phone call automation which was automated by our system, and listen in what the customer actually says and how challenging the conversation is.
Hello there, here is Julia speaking. I am the digital assistant of the technical help desk. I am calling you about a support ticket. Is it okay for you to talk to me?
Yes, it's okay.
I am glad to hear that. Am I speaking with Florian Beck?
Are you a robot?
Yes, I am. Is it okay for you to talk to me?
Yes.
Thank you for your trust. Am I speaking with Florian Beck?
Yes, I'm on the line.
We have an open ticket with the number 1234. It is about the issue no internet connection. Has this problem already been fixed?
Can you please wait a moment?
I will stay on the line.
Yes, the problem is already fixed.
May I now mark the open ticket with the number 1234 as solved for them and close it?
Please close it. Yes. Thank you.
All right, glad to hear it. I am closing her ticket. Have a good day. The
So you
conversation
see,
ends.
this customer was very much needing additional time to understand and to give back the answer to the AI, sometimes totally deviating to another point, another question. So it's pretty obvious that you need a different kind of AI to handle this phone call situation. This was one of the cases we built together with Atos, which is in an area of IT support about ticket closing. So the AI calls a customer and asks if a specific ticket can be closed or not, and or if there are any kind of further steps the customer support should actually take to fulfill the customer request or to solve the problem. The situation here is what you heard is pretty okay English from the customer. However, it gets more difficult and more tricky if you're going the area of dialects. So listen in very briefly. It's a German example. We built also together with Atos as a use case how an more German dialect conversation looked like. Have a try.
Willkommen beim Service Desk. Amadeus spricht. Ist es für Sie okay, mit mir zu sprechen?
Grüß dich, ja klar, wir können sprechen. Bist du ein Roboter?
Das ist richtig, das haben Sie gut erkannt. Ich bin eine Maschine. Bitte nennen Sie mir Ihre Personalnummer, damit ich das Ticket für Sie eröffnen kann.
Meine Das-ID wäre A54213. Sag einmal, hast du eine Freundin?
Ja, Ihr Name ist Emenda. Um fortzufahren, beschreiben Sie mir bitte den Grund Ihres Anrufs. Wobei können wir Ihnen helfen?
Ich kann keine ORR-Verbindung aufbauen. Es kommt der Fehler wie in Definitionsdatei veraltet.
Vielen Dank. Ich darf Sie nun an Sarah weiterleiten, die Ihnen helfen wird. Es war mir eine Freude. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Bleiben Sie bitte in der Leitung.
So what you heard is that AI picked up the phone, created a ticket, collects all the information, and then hands over to a human being for further support. The most tricky part here is that what you heard is Vorarlbergerisch, which is the west area of Austria for actually handling as a dialect. And this is the next step. What we see in these phone call automation systems is that it allows access and understanding into all different sorts of regions who have dialects which are not servable by cloud systems, for example. And if you think about as a human being, when you have a conversation a conversation with someone on the phone, you would like that you are understood. You maybe like the voice, which means should mirror exactly how you're talking. And with this technology, you could actually have exactly a similar voice with the same dialect, which is trained by the AI to respond back to the customer. So coming to the final takeaways of my presentation, which I would like to give you, there are three things. One is there are many benefits for call centers and agents that can be realized through phone call automation, especially next to cost efficiencies. There are also another ones for increasing the customer experience. The second one is to make it successful, the accuracy understanding is key. It's very important that the AI on the phone, which is real time, understands what the customer is talking about and creates and generates a logical response and answer in very, very fast. So a person on the phone is very impatient and needs an answer very fast. And the third thing, it also needs to be use case specific. Think about a voice about a banking use case and a voice about a sporting company use case. And the third thing is that for handling phone call automation, for making these use cases work, you need an end-to-end phone call automation system, and it's not sufficient to just plug in different microservices from different vendors, because the speed will just not be there and also the accuracy will not be there. So look for an end-to-end phone call solution to make phone calls work. All right, at this point, many thanks to our partners and supporters. Very much looking forward to your questions. And we at OnTheGo, we make machines intelligent to help humans on the phone. Thanks a lot.
Andreas, thank you very much for your talk. It was I really liked the examples. There was probably for the English speaking audience some things lost in translation, but I think even Irish, Scottish, or other nationalities know what it should be about if natural language processing can be an obstacle in these solutions. What I was wondering about the price of such solutions, in an article recently, I read that it's possible to get more than 2 million calls, outbound calls in this case, for less than $1,000. Is that also true for incoming calls in your experience or with your use cases? Is that really the price for such calls?
So you mean the price for doing a call automatically?
Yeah. So really reducing the price to a few cents per call.
Yes. So if you look at the direct costs you have in a call center, which is employee costs, and in call centers, they are actually measured on a second level, so per second, or on a per minute level. Per minute, a call center agent costs between 80 cents to €1.20, depending on which languages they are talking and where they are located. If you can bring this price down by 25 or even 50%, the AI is the better solution for the repetitive standard requests from the customers. It doesn't matter if it's inbound or outbound. It's really about the time which can be saved, or the time that can be offered for customers on the phone, which are not covered at the moment. A lot of call centers operate very, very limited services overnight, or even not at all. So you have this kind of typical 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, time where people are allowed to call. With an AI solution, customer experience is dramatically increased. So the euro amount per minute you have, or the cent amount per minute for an inbound call, is actually not the employee cost. It's actually much more, because the customer benefit is huge. So to your question, calculating if call automation software is good or bad for your use case, it's really about understanding what's the price per minute of a call center agent, and then think about 25 or 50% reduced costs. And that can be achieved very fast.
Okay, good and impressive numbers. Thank you. There was a question from the previous talk to Jürgen Angele, but I think it can be answered by any of you. Mario, please. There was another question.
Yes, there are two more questions in the chat remaining for our speakers. One is from Simona, which is addressed to Andreas. And she's asking, I ask from a perspective customer's point of view in terms of needing such an AI in the future. So for building such a project in the pre-building stage, how should most of the information be given to the coder so that it be most efficient? Example as PowerPoint slides and audio files, or is there a generally preferred way by the AI builder for community? I can also repeat the question, Andreas, if you want me, or is it clear to you?
So how to prepare, so I understand the question that how to prepare a test that you can actually teach an AI to handle such kind of phone calls, and how to prepare, how.
Yes, for building such a project in the pre-building stage, how should most of the information be given to the coder so that it be most efficient?
Yes, so you need to distinguish between three types of systems. One, speech to text. Second, NLU, so the conversation automation solution. And three, the voice you generate. For one, speech to text, you need to start recording audio wherever you can, from phone calls, from conversations on the phone, on laptops, on computers, to really capture the conversations that are happening between humans and employees, because they're very much different. The second is text. So for natural language understanding and NLP systems to handle automation, the best form you can collect is scripts or transcribed conversations to train, to start preparing for building such a system. The third thing, it's a conversation with marketing and PR from your company to understand, if we have an AI agent on the phone, what would be what should this voice sound like? How should it be? It's similar to chatbot character design. However, with an additional component, how should the voice sound? Should it be speak slowly, very, very quietly, or should it be very, very fast on the phone? So these are the difficult peculiarities for voice. You need to think about how should it be so that it represents the brand of the company and the values of the company, and also the customers who are calling.
Thank you very much. If details are needed, again, please do not hesitate and get in touch with the virtual face-to-face meetings in the platform. All the speakers are there and happy to answer your questions. To all speakers, it was really a pleasure having you with us and to talk to you also in preparing the workshop. It was really fun. Thank you very much for the insights and the experience you shared. And the message to the audience, thank you very much for your time attending this workshop. And as a birthday present for today, I got the chance to host this session. Thanks for that. And I wish you all the best. Take care. And if you need any contact, do not hesitate to contact us or anybody you see in the B2Match platform. Have a good day, and thanks for your attention. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye.
Happy birthday,
By the way.